Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to No Place Like Homaha. We're excited to bring you some Week 3 action, and we're just excited to be back talking about the sport as we kind of inch our way closer to Omaha come June. I am Nick Hendricks. Alongside me are my other three co-hosts, or other two co-hosts. We don't got three
Good job
today.
counting,
we got
buddy.
JD. Yep, kind of my imaginary friend. We got JD, and then we got Mikey as well. And we, like we said, are bringing you some action from last week. So, boys, how we doing this week?
Oh, it's been a crazy weekend, that's for sure.
No kidding.
In the realm of sports, you just want to dive right into it.
I think we should.
Yesterday, for sure, I think we should talk about a lot of upsets.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
a lot. So, let's dive in. Where do we want to start?
About that Texas game.
All right, we can start right there with the Bruins and go straight in with the Longhorns. Well, the Longhorns kind of proved their test in this last week with that Shriners Hospital for Children Classic. They ended up beating Tennessee, which was a great opponent. They won 7-2. They beat LSU 6-1 after LSU coming off that big walk-off. And then UCLA gave them a little bit of a stumper. So we'll pull the stats up here. The lone run that came off of the Texas offense was from the good old Hispanic Titanic himself, Ivan Melendez, and that was a lone home run back in the fourth. But otherwise, from there, UCLA pitching held the Longhorns to their lowest run, or their second lowest run total of the year with one.
First loss of the year.
As well, first loss of the year, but they still remain number one in the college baseball rankings on all polls, which I feel is still deserved. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, that number one, it kind of gets a little bit of a shake up there, but no other team besides, I believe, Ole Miss sniffs that top 25 ranking, or that top spot ranking, and they have one loss as well. But guys, did anybody watch that Texas game? I know I was kind of flipping back and forth. I wasn't able to watch that series or that entire tournament, I guess, this weekend. The channel was kind of weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, I watched Oklahoma play a little bit in that game, but I saw the highlight for Melendez's home run, and that thing went off the train tracks at the Houston Astros Stadium. That was a long gone ball, but yeah, the pitching staff, just like you said, for UCLA was pretty lights out against a hot Texas team. So that definitely shook up things.
As we kind of go through the stats here, main starting pitcher for UCLA in the last game of Austin, he went 5 1/3 innings. He had 3 hits, 1 run, and that earned run was obviously Ivan Melendez. He had 8 Ks on the day, and that came after UCLA had a 10K game against Baylor. They just weren't swinging the bats well against Baylor at all. Baylor pitching shut them down, and then they were able to get some run production off of the Texas bullpen. Texas had to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pitchers in that contest. Lucas Gordon, he went 4 innings. He had 4 hits, only allowed 1 run. And then they swapped it out to LeBron Johnson, who ended up getting the loss for Texas in that game. He had just a third of an inning, and he had 2 runs off that. 1 was earned, and he had no strikeouts. So for Texas, it was a little bit of a rough day, but I think they'll be able to bounce back.
Yeah, it's super weird to see, too, because they handled Tennessee and LSU pretty easily, you know. And Tennessee's been lighting up the scoreboard, and LSU hasn't been too bad either. I mean, they've only lost 3 games on the year. Some of these have been nail-biters, but, you know, that was just, I don't know, it's kind of surprising that they can beat Tennessee, LSU, and come out and only produce 1 run against the UCLA team.
Well, I think like a kind of a factor, if you look at it, is if you just kind of flip the script here and you look at the Northeastern NC State series. I mean, Northeastern pitched absolutely lights out against probably one of the best offenses in the country at the moment, besides the Longhorns, and a couple of other teams. Clemson, you could throw in there as the best offense in the league. But like if you flip it over to that series, it was all pitching and key hitting. And it was the same thing for the Campbell loss. NC State has now dropped 4 straight. They lost to Campbell last Wednesday, 7-4, and then they lose the entire series. They got swept by the Northeastern Huskies, who just came out of a regional appearance in Lincoln. They lost 6-1 in game 1. They lost 8-5 in game 2, and then to wrap it all up on Sunday, they lost 6-0 And I mean, I was watching some of that game. Tommy White was off. The entire defensive staff for NC State was off. And I mean, Northeastern's pitching, it was changeups and off speed that was just eating up this offense.
Yeah, I completely agree. Northeastern came out to play, and NC State's kind of hit a skid now. But again, it's something that they can bounce back from. And we've seen this a lot just in those first few weeks. I guess NC State came out a little bit higher than maybe some of those other teams did, and now they're kind of hitting that same skid that we've kind of seen those first few weeks for those other top-ranked teams.
Mm-hmm. I think a bigger thing to look at is Tommy White. You know, he's still hitting 431 on the year, which is very well. It's quite possibly amazing. But his strikeouts have gone up. No Tommy Tanks this weekend. But he's got 6 Ks over those last 4 games, which might not seem like a lot, but I think it kind of goes to show, you know, he is a big run producer for that NC State Wolfpack team with 29 RBIs on the season already. Northeastern just shut him down.
Yeah, with that, just building off of that, with his bat going cold this weekend, we actually have a new home run leader, Derek Warndorf from Liberty. He had 2 home runs on the weekend, and that put him ahead.
He's got 10 home runs in 11 games, and that really kind of came through. One thing I do kind of want to talk about before we switch this up, looking at Northeastern's pitching, because we mentioned it on Sunday, Wyatt Scotty, he's 3-0 on the year for Northeastern, but he had 7 innings pitched, no runs allowed. He had 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, but he had 5 hits allowed. You go to Saturday, you had Sebastian Keene. He had 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. But then you look at the huge thing, which I think was the tone setter for that entire weekend down in Raleigh. Cam Schlater, 8 innings pitched, 3 hits, no runs, only 2 walks, 5 Ks. I mean, this pitching staff for Northeastern has just been stellar this whole weekend. And I think they only used in total just 10 pitchers. It was like 10 or 11 pitchers just in total on the weekend, and that was just subbing through a couple of key situations. So, I mean, if you take a look at just how college baseball has kind of been wrapping around the world this year, it's key pitching and key hitting that wins games and can take down top-ranked opponents, and we saw a lot of that, like Mikey said at the beginning, this weekend.
Are you thinking that moving forward that Northeastern's going to rely more on that starting pitching staff, or do you think they'll be able to fall back on their bullpen if their starters get in trouble?
You look at, I mean, their top 2 starters, one of them's got a .47 ERA, the other's got a 1.5, which is, I mean, they got 3 guys who are above 10 innings pitched on the year so far, which is kind of crazy. The other guy who's got above 10 has got a 2.7, which, you know, is not great. It's not terrible either.
No, not at all.
But all 3 of these guys have 13 Ks on the year already, which, I mean, is very good. And like, they're giving up hits. They both have double-digit hits given up, but combined they've only given up 8 runs between those 3, which I think speaks in testament to their pitching staff right there.
Yeah, but I'm kind of saying, like, if that pitching staff doesn't get in trouble, and I don't know how in-depth any of you guys have looked at their roster, but do you think that they could have some relief pitching that can come in if it's like, hey, they're in 3 innings and they've already given up like 4 or 5 runs and they get in that situation? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, just by looking at these guys, it doesn't seem like their starting pitchers are. I mean, they could have an off day, you know, and
right. Yes.
There's not a lot of. It doesn't look like there's a lot of stats on their bullpen.
Okay. Yeah.
Because between those 3 pitchers, they've got, what is this, 27. They've got 40 innings between 3 guys right here. And they've played what? How many games have they played?
They've played 13 games. They have a 6-5 record. Yeah. And so like kind of taking a look at some of this here, it looks like just kind of early parts of the games. They had in the Snowbird Classic, they played Marshall for 2 games. Marshall in game 1 won 13-3. And in the second game, they lost 3-2 in 10 innings. So, I mean, it seems like if anything's going to happen between the pitching staffs, it's at the starting half of the rotation, it looks like, because I'm going to try to pull up this Marshall score here. Nope. They had a 6-run ninth inning. Okay, so there's where it slips off a little bit. But judging from their performance last year, because they did return a few good key starters and some bullpen arms as well underneath that coaching staff. So, and it was the same team that they went to the regionals with, pretty much. They have some good hitters coming back. And NC State was a very young team right now. They've got a good freshman core, but definitely needs some work. So I think that pitching staff for Northeastern needs a little bit of growth, but I think it can be there once it comes time for tournament play.
I think another big one to kind of look at is Gonzaga sweeping who's this? Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State this weekend.
Yeah.
They just finished that up today. They've actually won seven straight, dating back to the 21st of February. But that was a very good Oklahoma State team that they just went in and swept, which is big. I mean, Oklahoma State's 6-5 on the year. But granted, their first 3 were Vanderbilt, which I guess you could say kind of set that tone, which they won 2-1 and then in that series. But then you come and you drop a series to 25th ranked Gonzaga. I don't know how you can I don't know. I feel like they're going to come back and kind of put a beating on BYU this weekend.
You think Oklahoma State is?
I think so, yeah.
I could definitely see it. And I mean, Gonzaga has just been kind of playing with their heads on fire. Like you said, they got into the top 25 here. Hitting for Oklahoma State has been one of those things where it's gotten them into some big tournament appearances as well. They've got Missouri State also on Tuesday. Then they got Dallas Baptist as well after that BYU series. So, I mean, they've got a good Mo Valley Conference or 2 Missouri Valley Conference opponents that are really good and really strong. And then BYU's offense as well has been kind of taking care of it. So we'll see how those Cowboys do, and happy to see that Gonzaga was able to kind of bring it to an opponent with a full sweep this weekend.
You got a 9-2 Gonzaga team with a very good pitching staff.
Very good.
Their leading pitcher, Gabriel Hughes, has got 30 strikeouts and 2 dubs with a 2.80 ERA.
That's a pretty dang good. Pretty good stat line for a starting pitcher so far. I mean, Gonzaga had a pretty hard opening half of the year. They played Oregon State twice. They had Cal, who had a good weekend against Florida State, I believe. And then they had Cal State Fullerton, and they beat through Cal State Fullerton. Their game against Washington got postponed, and then you take 3 straight and get a series sweep, and now you go to an SEC opponent in the University of Missouri, who isn't always a powerhouse in the SEC now, but their baseball team still makes the conference tournament every year. And so now you've got a good SEC opponent coming to town, and then you got Oregon. That's their first home opener. So, I mean, Gonzaga's looking to kind of bring it, and we'll see if they can keep that pitching staff and keep those numbers as they move through the season. Another game that I kind of want to talk about, LSU. So they had the game against Texas. They lost 6-1. And then they go against the Baylor Bears in that same tournament on Sunday, and then they lose to Baylor. So LSU has now dropped 2 straight. That Baylor offense, I don't know what it is about them. I'm going to take a look at this here. Like I said, I wasn't able to watch a ton of that Shriners Classic, but Baylor kind of stunned some teams this weekend.
Well, yeah, I feel like LSU is still a pretty good ball club. I mean, to lose
new
to
head
Texas
coach this year.
Yeah, that is fair as well. Yeah, we talked about that culture change a few episodes ago. But to come out and face a Texas like that is extremely good this season, that was kind of, they were going to lose that game like about 9 out of 10 times probably.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely taking a look at that Baylor team. I feel like they definitely came to play this weekend. Made some good moves there. So
yeah, they had the stumble. They had the stumble against Tennessee, but they were able to pull off the win against UCLA 2-1. And then they had Tennessee. They lost 10-5 after that, and Tennessee still continues to just have an amazing pitcher on the mound throwing 100 miles an hour.
Throwing gas.
And it's a sinker.
1 mile an hour sinker, yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Absolutely filthy. And Brian Joyce, I mean, that's just the type of guy who you wish to have in your bullpen. He can throw 100 miles an hour, get it up to 104, no problem. He's been able to dice it up so far this year. He came into that game against Baylor. He had a third of an inning pitched. He only allowed one hit, and that was about it. He didn't have it might have been against UCLA, I think, where he had the K, but he's been getting used a lot.
He's got 5 appearances on the year with 2 hits, a walk, 5 Ks, and a 1.82 opponent batting average against him.
Jeez.
I don't know how he's got a 1.82 even. I mean, how do you hit that? I'd love to step in the box and just get fanned. But, yeah, no, continuing with the kind of roller coaster of college baseball. The reigning champs, the Dogs in Starkville, Mississippi State, drops an entire series to Tulane this weekend, who cracks their way into the top 25. Going through here on the good old Division I baseball, Tulane now moved up to 18 after not being ranked. The Green Waves are 10-2. And where did my schedule racket go here? They ended up losing game 1, 19-2. So keep that in mind, 19-2. Win a game in walk-offs with a blast in 10 innings, and that was 11-10. And then they come back to win game 3, 5-4. So that 19-2 game really didn't scare Tulane at all.
Which this is good for Tulane too, because just looking at their schedule, I don't think they have another opponent who will even be of the caliber of Mississippi State until East Carolina, which is late April, and that's even if East Carolina can figure out their stuff. You know, they don't have the strongest conference in the American Athletic, but you know they're 10-2. You know, they're proving that they deserve to be the top 25.
They got LSU on March. They got LSU on the 15th. Yep,
yeah,
they do.
just a little
and that's in Baton Rouge.
Yep, midweek game.
So that'll be a good test. That'll be a good test for them. They got Memphis as well. Memphis is usually somewhat decent coming in. And then you're right, they got on April 24th and that weekend, East Carolina. They got UCF, who was able to take a game out of Ole Miss this weekend as well. So teams taking chunks out of everybody. But that Mississippi State offense needs to kind of find itself a rhythm, and that pitching staff as well. They're giving up a lot of runs this year. So they need to kind of find their way around the baseball and be able to kind of dial in themselves.
Yeah, they're not looking like the same Mississippi State team. Now, again, just like we stated earlier, it's early in the season still, but to see a lot of these teams coming out here with more fight than, you know, those other teams that have been on that stage before. Now that, again, they could just kick it on near regional play, but you know, that's really tough to do, and only a select few amount of teams can actually do that. Like, oh goodness, I don't even know how long ago it was, but Fresno State, when they came to Omaha a while back and won it, they were the only school to ever have a losing record and then come to win the College World Series.
And that was back in 2009.
2009, yep.
Because 2010, South Carolina ended up winning it and pushing it. And that was the last year that it was.
Last year, Rosenblatt, and then they won the first year TD Ameritrade, yeah.
Yep, and they went on that two-peat. Miami, also, they dropped out of the top 25 as well. The Gators are kind of finding themselves back on their offensive track as usual. Kevin O'Sullivan's team looked pretty decent this weekend against the good old Hurricanes.
True. I think you guys can pick which one you want to talk about, but you got Arizona losing a series to Texas State and TCU losing a series to Kentucky. Both are top 15, I believe. TCU's 21. So two top 25 teams that lost, you know, series to unranked opponents.
Well, again, TCU has a coaching change this year.
They do, and they're still 8-3 on the season.
And they're still 21 in the year after, or still 21. They got dropped from 16. Arizona was at 11. They got dropped back to 16 as well.
Yeah, just looking at this TCU schedule, I'm interested to see, you know, how they'll play out, because they've got Baylor in the middle of March, but then things get really interesting towards the end with Texas the first week in April, Texas Tech the week after that, Oklahoma State the weekend after that, Florida State
Dallas
the weekend
Baptist,
after that.
Florida State.
Dang, that's a tough ring.
They got a tough little mid schedule here, but I don't know. It could be this can be some damn good games.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's the one thing you also have to look at too is TCU. Everybody knows It's the Toad to Omaha, and they've been able to kind of get themselves that kind of ranking. Been to a few College World Series appearances. They have not won a CWS yet. They haven't been to a final yet either. But going back to this weekend series against Kentucky, it was 11-3, a loss on Friday, 5-1, a loss on Saturday, and then a 12-8 victory yesterday on Sunday. Nope, that was on Saturday as well. They didn't have a Sunday game. But I will say that Kentucky team, they found a way to kind of sneak into the top 25 after the last couple of years. They're kind of that mid-level team, especially when it comes to baseball. Usually their sport is basketball, and we've talked about that a lot. But, I mean, it seemed like their hitting was just on fire, and they're 10-2 on the year, kind of looking through it. Their next couple of big games, they don't have very many huge opponents. I think their biggest opponent before Arkansas on March 18th would be Indiana on March 15th. So, and then they kind of just have a big start through it, and that would Arkansas is their opener in SEC play as well. So, and they've got a very tough mid-season schedule. They got Vanderbilt on April 22nd. They've got Florida April 29th on that next weekend, and then they got Tennessee on May 5th before they get South Carolina, and then they end with Auburn. So, I mean, everybody's seeming to find to pile up their big schedules in the middle of the week then.
Ooh. I'm just kind of looking at some other games real quick. And Alabama, they've only dropped 4 games, and 3 of those were to Texas. But just looking at their schedule, the middle of March is when things will get interesting because they got Florida, then Mississippi State the weekend after, then Ole Miss 2 weekends after that, then Tennessee, then Georgia, then LSU, then Arkansas to end it. Some of these schedules, they're crazy, I think.
I would definitely have to agree on that. And I think the one thing that you kind of have to look at is teams now in baseball, I think, are taking a lot bigger strides. They're playing big name teams. They're looking to try to get their names on the map. Like, I'm just looking here right now at Clemson's schedule. I mean, they had Indiana. They swept South Carolina this week, and South Carolina is usually a good team. They got Michigan State coming up as they're trying to look to continue. I believe it's their 11-game win streak. Then Northeastern comes to town in Clemson, South Carolina. So the Huskies are trying to make a name for themselves as well. They open up SEC play against Miami, and then they got Coastal Carolina in a midweek series. So, Clemson's trying to make a name for themselves as well in college baseball and kind of get themselves put back on that map as they have been kind of in the early 2000s. So Clemson had a big weekend against South Carolina.
Yeah, and Clemson is still undefeated on the season.
That they are.
So
they are 11-0, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
12-0, I think now. Aren't they?
Clemson. Let me look here. I just had a thing on Instagram from College Baseball Hub. So still on the hot streaks right now. You have Purdue, who's 12-0. You've got Clemson, who is 11-0. Virginia, the Cavaliers as well. I was watching a little bit of their baseball this weekend. They are hitting a little bit of a stride. They're 11-0 as well. Wake Forest is 11-0. And then the returning, I don't think they are this year, but a few years back, the Tennessee Tech offense is 10-0 as well on the year. They used to be the leading home run leader. They went to the Oxford Regional, and then they went to Austin to play in the Super Regional to try to get to the CWS. They lost. They hit 180-plus home runs as a team. I think it was like 4 years ago. Get after it.
It was crazy.
Get after it, Tennessee Tech. And then I'm looking through here because College Baseball Hub, they got they got NAIA, they got, Southeastern in the NAIA, 23 consecutive wins. They're 23-0 on the year. That's pretty dang good.
Usually they go down and actually scrimmage the Detroit Tigers spring training team.
That's pretty dang good.
True.
23 wins in college baseball.
I don't want to knock Purdue here.
Oh boy,
because they're 12-0. Well, no, their
opponents. Yeah, they haven't.
They're not. You're playing Princeton, South Dakota State, Longwood, Charlotte. Some of these games are close. It's baseball, so it's not like
12 wins is 12 wins, though.
Right, which is why they shouldn't be knocked. But I don't think I don't know. I'm curious to see how they do in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they'll get a challenge when they come back and face teams like Michigan or
Mm-hmm.
I mean throw Nebraska in there, but
They don't play
skid right
Nebraska this year.
now. Oh no.
No, they do
Mm-mm.
not.
Oh, that
They've
must be
got
the other side
Maryland,
of
who's
the
in the top 25.
Maryland.
That's their closing series. Iowa, even though they lost to Loras, who was a D3 opponent last week in the midweek, Iowa's usually pretty good. They make that NCAA appearance. They were a winner of the Big Ten a couple of years ago as well.
I'm also curious. Sorry, go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, go for it. I was going to say they play a team called Purdue Fort Wayne, the good old Mammoths of Purdue Fort Wayne. That's on April 12th. That might be fun to watch just to see what the Mammoths are.
Well, they're mammoths.
They are big, hairy elephants. That's what they are.
With long trunks.
Never heard of them.
Wink. No, but I'm interested to see what Liberty can do too. They're 10-1 on the year. Haven't dropped a game since that very first game against Florida. They don't really have anybody that's super eye-opening. They got 2 games against North Carolina, a game against Virginia Tech, a Wake Forest game. So nothing too they got a Virginia game. Nothing too crazy. But still, you can't knock teams that are on streaks like this, especially in baseball.
No, yeah. And I mean, they do have the nation's leading home run leader, like we talked about, in Derek Orndorff. He's got 10 home runs in just about as many games, or in just over as many games. He's got 11 games played. So, I mean, teams are hitting the long ball this year. Like, I'm just looking at it right now. There's a lot of home runs. Derek has 10. Tommy Tanks has 9. Guy from Albany, Brad Mall, he's got 8. Multiple guys with 7, 6 on the weekend. I mean, Jared Geloff from Virginia. He is an absolute stud. He was returning last year from Virginia's regional appearance. So he's a big name to watch as well as we kind of go through. I don't remember if we mentioned him on the opening episode. LSU's got a guy in there, and Jacob Berry, who's a sophomore as well. He's a utility guy. So, I mean, there's Tim Elko, also big name from Ole Miss. He's got 5 home runs in 11 games. So, I mean, there's a lot of big names on here that are key for a bunch of guys.
Yeah, the only other name that I wanted to bring up with that was Eduardo Malinowski. He is from Virginia Tech. He had 6 homers in 7 games so far.
Oh, Tommy Tanks 2.0?
Eduardo.
Oh, well,
Eduardo
I mean, if they
Tanks?
figure out
Eduardo Tanks.
We already got a Hispanic Titanic in Javi Melendez, so we need to come up with some new names.
Quite a nickname.
That's true.
That is insane.
But
I mean, he's earned it. He
in
hits
nickname
some freaking
defense,
bombs.
He does. In nickname defense, nothing can top Taysom Hill's Mormon missile.
Oh,
nothing.
Yeah.
When we call Eduardo Malinowski, why don't we call him Eduardongs?
No.
Eduardongs.
Why don't we just call him Mike Wazowski?
Mike Wazowski.
You gotta hit him.
I do like that one.
Yeah, that's better.
That's good.
So Eduardo Mike Wazowski from Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go. I love to see it.
Yeah.
As well, Mikey, I did see somebody here. Oh my gosh, I lost it. But Andy Garola.
Yes.
Andy Garola from Old Dominion.
Yeah.
The senior infielder. He's got 5 home runs in 10 games. In case anybody doesn't remember, Old Dominion is a pick for Mikey.
He's a right fielder.
He's a right. It says infield here on
your information.
You're talking to the guy who knows everything about Old Dominion baseball.
9-1, baby. Drop their slongs on Bryant this week. Yesterday. 23-7.
Yikes.
They said, here is my lion meat. Dropped it on their foreheads.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, there you have it. That was a lot of big key games and some very key performances that we had this weekend. I think I want to take a look at, if I can pull up the dang schedule here. Let's go. Probably not. I mean, I've got so many dang tabs open here. But let's go take a look at it, see if we got any big midweek games. Let's go at least take a look at Wednesday. Oh, on Wednesday, we got Texas Tech and Mississippi State squaring off. That'll be a big game to see. I'm going to try to see if I can confirm that on Texas Tech's schedule here.
It is.
It is. That's on Wednesday?
Yep. Time to be determined.
Time to be determined. That will be an absolute showstopper.
They got a back-to-back game, Tuesday, Wednesday, actually.
Oh, there you go. So number 17, Texas Tech, the Red Raiders play number 23, Mississippi State.
At the dude.
Let's see. Tulane's got Southern Miss coming to town. Number 18, Tulane. Maryland has VCU from the Atlantic 10. They're ranked 24. VCU unranked. I think that kind of deals through on that game. Let's flip it over to Friday, March 11th. You got Oklahoma State, like we talked about. They got BYU coming to town.
NC State.
NC State opens up conference play in Raleigh, 22 versus number 9, Notre Dame. Campbell and Liberty. Watch out, Liberty. The Flames, they got the Camels coming to town, and Camels have already knocked off NC State.
You got Florida, Wake Forest, which could be good too.
Yeah, that Florida State Wake Forest series, that will be huge.
Thank you.
If Wake Forest can keep their hot streak going with another couple of wins here, they might bump into the top 25. And Florida State is ranked 8th on the year. A lot of ACC has been starting conference play very early.
I was gonna say, what the heck's up with that? Nobody else is playing interconference.
Texas goes to South Carolina for the weekend. Texas Tech has Rice. Oral Roberts goes to Ole Miss.
Nebraska's got Long Beach.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Long Beach State is playing Nebraska. Isn't that the one in Lincoln?
I'm not sure. You'll have to take a look at that schedule. The Pac-12, looks like, starts conference play.
In Lincoln. Ooh, might go to that game.
In Lincoln with Long Beach State?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Texas is playing South Carolina.
Yep, that's in Columbia.
Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech.
Yep, Northeastern's got Clemson.
Old Dominion has Stony Brook.
Ooh, that'll be a good game. Pac-12 also, like we said, starts this weekend. Notable games: Stanford, number 5. They got the Oregon Ducks coming to town, and then California hosts number 16, Arizona. Arizona looking to try to get back on their wheels here, see if they can keep their feet rolling underneath them. I think that just kind of rounds out big weekend series.
Or Iona.
Oh, who
Are
does
they going
Iona
to get
got?
whooped on again?
Well, it don't matter. They gave up.
It don't matter.
They gave up 31 runs this weekend
Oh.
and only scored 2. They've scored 8 total runs in 9 games. They're 0-9. And I'm not mathing how many they've given up. That's too many double digits.
That's probably
just
triple
go look at their
digits this
team
point.
ERA, man.
Okay, I got you.
That's insane.
Their best pitcher's got a
well.
6.14.
Oh my gosh!
Ouch.
You need to switch up the staff a little bit.
Who are they going to
Move
pull
fire
in?
everybody.
Put the water boy out there. Let's do it.
Let the DH pitch. Let the DH pitch.
Do it.
He's hitting 0 on the season with 5 Ks. He's got to be better than these other kids.
If he can get as many Ks as he does at the plate, then we're good.
Okay, I think we should do like something for Iona here. I don't know what it would be, but we should be like secret Iona fans. Every time they get a win, we just celebrate.
No. Here.
We just need to put up a 1-800 number at the bottom. Please donate. These poor kids.
I'm going to read you their top 5. Here's their top 5 batting averages.
All right, shoot me.
You got a 300,
all right,
292,
okay,
238, a 160, a 105, and then it just goes down. We go 100, 100.074, 0.048. And these guys got at-bats, too. Like, this dude's got 27 at-bats. He's got a .07. This dude's got 29. He's got a .034.
That's crazy.
Just get Sarah McLaughlin on here to start singing.
She can't save them.
Oh, my gosh.
She cannot save them.
I don't know what it is. I had to restart my camera recording again because that failed. So that's twice. I got to take a look at my malfunctioning equipment here.
Because we talked about Iona. It was like,
that's probably why.
We're like cutting the feed. The feed's done.
Nope.
No more. Talk about
just
someone
like
else.
them, you should not be on TV right now.
Yep. They're like, talk about this Ryder team who's 6-4. I don't even know who these people are.
Dude, there are so many different teams. Rhode Island got Tennessee this weekend. Lipscomb's got Georgia on a full weekend series. Florida has Seton Hall. The Gators host I believe it's the Pirates, right, from Seton Hall? I don't watch the Big East as well.
Something like that.
Tulane's got Evansville. The Purple Aces go to town. TCU has Army.
Stanford's top 5?
Yeah, Stanford's top 5. They got a very good
I told
offense.
you they're sneaky.
They're
They're sneaky.
They're top 5 with 3 losses. That's kind of infuriating.
Yeah. I'm trying to look here. Does anybody have – oh, Josh, yeah, you are the only person so far that's got Stanford in CWS. So
I told you, just like I said in the prediction, they're sneaky, but like again, it's early. I also have Nebraska, and that's like –
oh, yeah, that's not
right
not
now,
looking good right now.
They'll do some –
and we'll see.
They'll do some caca in their pants. Just wait.
Yikes.
You're also the only person that doesn't have Texas in the CWS.
There's no way they don't make it. They'll pay the
NCAA
committee.
There might be. College baseball in regional time. We saw a guy throw a no-no with 19 strikeouts. That good old Kumar Rocker. So, I mean,
how'd
there's
that fan out for
possibilities.
him in the CWS?
You know what? It did not fan out very well. I mean, that year they won Natty, though. And then he comes back for the second year.
And his buddy goes, what is it, top 5?
Yeah, Jack Leiter goes top 5 in the draft. So, Vanderbilt pitchers getting after it. Let's see. I think
we had Enrique Bradfield Jr. Sorry, I mixed up. Jackie
covers 34% of the world.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So like, stud. Water covers like, what is it, 75%? The other 74, and then the rest of it's covered by him.
73. Sorry.
Man is a nut.
Yeah, he made an awesome diving catch this weekend.
His triple, he looked like he was just running on air. It was effortless. His legs were just.
What triple? Cruising. He just teleports, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Basically.
It's like he hits a ball to the gap. It's like I'm already at third. I might as well go home. Who was it for Tennessee that had an inside the Parker? Oh, throwing it back to that. But Tennessee, yeah, they had an inside the park home run. Mikey, you said he got it after our little intermission here.
Okay, well, we have contradicting stories right now. I got a Chris. We're going to go Chris Burke. That's his name. Chris Burke.
Oh, so you weren't right the first time.
No, I was prepared. It's right here. Chris Burke hit a go-ahead inside the park home run in the 8th inning as Tennessee outslugged and outlasted the Georgia Bulldogs. Nope, well, that was from 20 years ago. Disregard. Nope, it was right. It was Chris Moore. We're good.
Misinformation.
No.
Across the board.
Sources.
Your research. Your research.
Disregard. This is wrong.
Blame the New York Times. His name is Christian Moore. There you go.
Did you check the date on it?
Times.
Yeah, this one's good. 1 day ago. Okay. I did not see the date on this one. It says June 12th of 2001. I was
awesome. Really, you really went digging for that.
I was watching that game, from my diaper, in the crib.
In the crib, he's like, yeah, that's BS.
Go Tennessee.
He's like that kid from like the Baby E-Trade commercials where he's just sitting there, just standing.
It's frowned upon in this establishment. No, I can picture Mikey like he's got his thumb in his mouth and he pulls out and it's like, oh, he's about to say his first words. Old Dominion.
That's actually
the first thing that came out of his mouth.
It's how it went.
Oh my goodness!
It's like you were there. It's kind of crazy.
I might have been. I don't know.
Damn.
Good Lord. We get into some weird rabbit holes here, boys.
Rabbit holes? This is a goddamn whale hole, my guy.
What?
Right in the blowhole.
I don't even know what to do sometimes with that. But yeah, so we went over scores. We'll do the top 25 rank here as it is on Division I baseball. So to start it off, Texas, they remain number 1 even with 1 loss. Ole Miss takes number 2. The Arkansas Razorbacks got 3. Vanderbilt Commodores, Stanford Cardinals hit 4 and 5. From 6 through 10 in this order, it's Oklahoma State, Oregon State, Florida State. That's a lot of states. Notre Dame, and then going to number 10 is Tennessee. The Gators of Florida hit 11. LSU hits 12. Georgia Tech 13. Liberty, the Flames are at 14. Then going through 15 through 20 in the order. North Carolina, the Tar Heels take that 15th spot. And then it's Arizona, Texas Tech, Tulane cracks in at that 18, as will Clemson is 19. Yeah. And then Georgia hits 20. And then to round out the last 5, the TCU Horned Frogs, they drop all the way to 21. NC State drops from 8 all the way down to 22 after this weekend. The Bulldogs, the reigning champs, are 6-6, and they sit at 23 after being ranked 9. The Maryland Terrapins, they get to 24, and then the Gonzaga Bulldogs hop in at that 25 spot after a big weekend against Oklahoma State.
Okay, timeout, 30-second timeout. Why is NC State get penalized for losing.
They've dropped 4
But
straight.
When you lose games,
I
you
don't
don't get ranked
care.
as high anymore.
I don't care, Miss
That's
Keisha.
what happens, especially if you get swept by an unranked opponent.
Bro, Oklahoma State just got swept by Gonzaga.
But was it by? But Gonzaga's ranked now.
I don't care. They're 25th, bro. They got
They
Tommy
were-
Tanks on that team. That's plus
Potato,
10
tomato,
rankings
tomato.
on its own.
Oklahoma State, before they dropped, was ranked 4, and they dropped all the way back to 6.
This is rigged.
NC State and their entire Oklahoma State went 2-2 last week, so they got 2 wins. In the last 4 games, NC State has dropped all 4.
That's fine. I
Mississippi-
just want to have a conversation with the guys. That's it.
Oh no, I mean,
I just
it's
want to talk to him.
I just want to talk to him.
Yeah. And then, okay, so then NC State can lose and drop, right? But Liberty can win every game for 9 straight and only be 14th? I just want to have a conversation. That's all.
And they beat Florida, so I
That's
mean
not
they
a
do have good
conversation.
ranks under their or
It's
good games under their
fair.
belt.
They're ranked behind
It's fair.
Florida. I just
Exactly.
want to have a conversation.
I will say Florida did come
Don't
off
know
some
who's
big
in
wins
charge of
against
it.
Miami this week. So, I mean, there's a couple of ranked wins there. Liberty does have some chances to prove themselves against North Carolina and then Campbell as well, who could be receiving votes. They have another ACC opponent in Wake Forest Tuesday, March 22nd. So if they keep up their win streak. And then they got ACC opponent Duke as well. They've got Stetson. The Hatters are usually pretty decent when it comes time for tournament play. Wow. Liberty is literally playing ACC opponents in every midweek series. So they got North Carolina tomorrow. Besides VCU next week, they've got Wake Forest on the 22nd, Duke on the 29th of March. April, they have Virginia on the 6th. They've got Virginia Tech on the 12th. They've got Duke again on the 19th. North Carolina. So, I mean, they are playing ACC opponents like no other. Good for them. What, Mikey? What are you?
I think he's losing it, but
Singing Pimps Don't Cry, baby.
so talking about that Liberty team though, one thing I wanted to touch on was the involvement of social media with college sports. So you've seen for most of you out there that have a TikTok, by the way, follow us on TikTok at Homaha
Yes.
Pod.
Homaha.
Subtle flex.
Anyways, you gotta plug it when you can.
You gotta plug.
So they announced their powder
Baby
blue
blue.
jerseys. Yep, with a rendition of it's all coming back to me, and so that was I thought that was funny. I thought that was a creative way to announce it.
Oh, yeah.
However, I just wanted to propose a question. Like, what are your thoughts on the colleges having social media accounts and like doing that kind of stuff versus players' presence on social media while they're in season? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's different now that you have the NILs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you think about it, before the NILs, it really didn't pay for them to be popular on social media. They couldn't get anything from it, technically.
Right.
So
Mhm.
why spend that time, that extra time and take away from studying, practice? They don't party, but partying. When you're not going to get anything in return, unless you're going to go to the league,
Right.
Yeah.
But now that they've got these NILs, they have that ability to promote themselves, promote their schools. 1, to make money. 2, to bring some hype around their teams. And 3, it's worth something to them now, other than just like fame and recognition out in public.
I would definitely agree with that. And I think I know a lot of teams are kind of using that now, especially like Oregon State. I was watching a couple of their TikToks this weekend on some big home runs, big plays that they had. But I think especially like involving with specific sports, involving your players on specific videos. So like posting all the GIFs that you make. A lot of teams or a lot of us other like players were making memes of their players literally like screaming and like moaning like girls just on their TikToks for gift day and media day. I mean, that's hilarious. It's like these kids do deserve their kind of chance to be normal guys, D1 athletes at the same time. And I do agree with Mikey that NIL stuff it kind of helps them out and it helps them grow. And it helps social medias for the universities grow as well, because these athletes are big public figures in the eyes of everybody. So, I mean, you kind of take it as you can get it.
And in the end, they are kids.
Yeah, 100%.
They're 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds.
Yeah.
We've all been there. I mean, shit, we're only 23.
Yep.
So, I mean, I'm still a kid, honestly.
Oh yeah, my
Um,
mind has not gotten to. I mean, granted, I'm
yeah,
doing a lot of
no.
adult things right now, but it's just like
Yeah, like you like to
nope.
have fun.
Oh yeah.
And why not, if you're gonna have fun, why not bring other people in and have other people, laugh along with you?
Mhm.
Yep. I 100% agree.
Yeah, I agree with your guys' points. It's just the tricky line to cross there, I feel like, is when does it become a distraction or a source of then they find more value in that versus their on-field stuff. Because I know a lot of times, like what I mean by that is they then value people focusing on them. So then if they have a bad game, not only are they leaving the field with that feeling of they let their team down, but then they got to be on social media then after that and like experience the constant harassment and all this kind of stuff for like if they use it as an outlet like while they're in season, like use it as an outlet to then post, funny videos and stuff. Then they get comments like, "Why don't you work on your game?" Like they're getting the same criticism as pro athletes.
Oh yeah.
So my thing was, where do we draw the line of you can do this stuff in season, but yet I don't want like their mental health to take a toll.
I think the line's already drawn, honestly, because if you think about it, they're college athletes, they're student athletes. This is
Mm-hmm.
said numerous times by numerous different people. It's student and then an athlete. So they don't do baseball all day, every day. They do it every day, but only for a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then other than that, they've got class. So it's like, I don't know if all kids are like this, but for some, it's viewed as like an escape from reality in some sense, kind of like how people play video games,
Oh yeah.
or go shooting, or go out and drive. Um, but I think there's so much hype around college baseball and how fun it is compared to the MLB when everything is so serious. And like
Yeah, I
and
would
like the
agree.
NFL and MLB players are getting death threats for blowing saves or
Missing
running in.
kicks.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's whereas these college kids, it's not. I don't think I mean, everybody wants to win, but I don't think, if they lose, I don't think it's that deep at the college level. College football is definitely different, especially at,
Oh yeah.
the programs where they're established, and like the Alabamas,
Mm-hmm.
the
The SEC.
yeah, like the Clemsons, where they've won natties, continuously. And
Yeah.
so their fans have just grown to expect that. I think Nick Saban said it. I don't know if it was this year, um, where he's disappointed in the fans because they've just grown to expect national championship appearances when that's earned. It's not
Mm-hmm.
given just because you have top tier talent. It still has to be earned.
Yeah.
I think you know college baseball
And
knows that, the coaches know that, the kids
I,
know that.
I would definitely agree with that. At the same time, it's like you made the comment that like losing takes or it's not as big. Like there's no big paycheck with it and everything like that. And I think the one thing that you have to look at too is like it depends on the time of the year that you lose. And like yes, every athlete hates losing. Every guy on the field will always tell you is like losing sucks. Like it hurts. But you look at all the Dansby Swanson's interview when they lost back in 2015 to Virginia, coming back the year that he was the number one overall draft pick. I mean, you looked at him, he was literally hugging Pat Corbin and literally looking at his entire lineup and said, this is like all the brothers, like 26 plus brothers. This is the best like dad we could ask for as a coach. So, I mean, it's like there's that family build there. And I feel like it's bigger within college sports, whether it's football, basketball, baseball. You're taking a look at that. And so every loss in like a major series or like it could be your trip to regionals. It could be your trip to the College World Series. You could just win the Natty and get the dog pile or hold up the college football playoff trophy. March Madness, you could win that. I mean, it's the time of the year where it's lost. And I think a lot of people get so hyped up in the fact that, yeah, you should be able to deal with the mental adversity. But it's like there's a lot going on as a college athlete. It's like I was stressed out during my capstone week and having missed a couple of series and like trying to get back into and practicing. I was beating my head against the board like I can't hit, I can't pitch. It's like, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? And I was so far inside my head. I mean, it was just, it's ridiculous. So I feel for these guys wanting to have that creative outlet. And I feel like coaches should monitor what they're posting, and they should definitely be careful about it because it is that public figure eye. But I agree with Mikey. It's that kind of escape. And I think rules are in place by coaches and team policies and everything like that. So they should be smart. There's going to be a couple mistakes. Like we said, they're kids. They're just like us. They're anywhere from 19 to 23. So.
Yeah, I think too, Josh, real quick. The fan, you look at fans across the different sports, like especially in the MLB or like the NFL, where fans are fighting opposing fans.
Oh yeah.
Because of the most random things. But then you look at, the College World Series, and you have LSU fans coming up here and their team's not even in it.
They're cooking dinner for everybody. They're tailgating with people in the parking lot on Fan Fest.
Which that very well could just be the sport too.
Oh,
and the level of respect that baseball has within, the college, like fan demographic, you could say, in comparison to, the NFL dynamic. But that everybody wants to win. We're all from Omaha. We want Nebraska to perform well. Nick's a Texas guy. He wants Texas to perform well. But like in the end, like we want our teams to win. But if they don't win, we're not going to fucking seek them out on social media and hope their families die. Like,
right?
Yeah, that'd be ridiculous. A little excessive.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just saying, like, because like when you leave the field, especially as a kid, like you're already beating yourself up a whole ton, and the mental processes are not the same for those that have been there. So like if you look at MLB players dealing with hecklers and stuff, they really don't care. Like they'll even sometimes just talk back to them and be like, you can come try the sport. Like,
oh yeah, it's like I'm making
millions of dollars. I understand that,
what are you doing with
but
your life?
The thing is like some of these kids are then not used to that kind of stage, and there are some trolls on social media. Like that'll happen. So it's just a matter of not then going back at them or letting that get to you. There's just, and Nick, you brought up a good point of how the coaches are monitoring it as well, and they check what they say and all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to use that as kind of a way to talk about, these kids, again, like we say, they're kids, dealing with that kind of emotion, because I feel like the mental game is a huge aspect, and social media has become such a huge thing. Like we're growing up in the era where we've all had social media growing up, and now it's so intermittent with our lives that it's just crazy to think about that you have to just deal with this other out there. And so I like how you guys talked about how they use it as a creative outlet. And so I think that's especially important to keep at the front of our minds.
Yeah, I last thing, I think in comparing college baseball and MLB, and you mentioned dealing with hecklers and like the way college players handle losses compared to, MLB players. The college season is so much shorter than the MLB season, and I think the MLB players realize that they've got 162 to 163 games to play, which is very long, whereas these college kids, they've only got
like 60 games a year, and like
plus
less than that.
And the contracts too, like they're like, oh, I got like 15 years in the league versus these guys, I got 4 or 5 years.
I've got 4 to try to make it to get to 15. And then now you're dealing with the MLB lockout as well, which we won't get into. But it's like there's so many other factors that that just kind of hype up all that emotion. And it's challenging, especially as a baseball player, where literally you're in a sport of total failure. Like we're hitting a ball 3 out of 10 times is good.
Yeah. Real quick, you mentioned the MLB lockout, but now I'm curious as to what you guys think. So they've mentioned banning the shift at the MLB level and implementing larger bases and a pitch clock.
That's dumb.
Is that something you think is going to make its way down to the college level? I don't think the shift will, because you don't see that at the college level that often.
No, Northeastern
at least I haven't
shift all weekend.
But bigger bases and a pitch clock. I mean, I don't think a pitch clock will come to college baseball, but the bigger bases could be, especially if it improves safety in terms of collisions.
I think the pitch clock already is. At the CWS, you got 20 seconds to get on the mound, take it. Yep, pitch clock's already there. The bigger bases, I think, if you can't step on a base, like if you forget it, how many times do people get called out a year and forget a base? Like that's such a minor thing. And
right, I think they're more doing it though to protect the players because you see. I mean, you don't see it that often, but you see people since base runners are taught to just run straight to the bag. They have to avoid the fielder at
the
all
defender,
costs.
yeah.
But most of the time they just run into him.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if they're kind of doing that to prevent this, or what. I haven't read the report on why the owners want that. It seems a little bit weird to me, but.
And what was the other one that you said, Mikey?
It was banning the shift, pitch clock, and bigger bases.
To me, the one thing, and me and my dad have always talked about this, it's like, okay, you look at a lot of highlights, and I think Brandon Crawford was a big one this year. There are so many ways to beat the shift. Learn how to hit to the opposite field.
Yep.
Even if it's a pitch on the inner half, learn how to be able to fist it down that way or get your hands inside enough to be able to push it down there. Bunt for all I care.
Exactly, yeah. Robinson Cano's done that before.
But just bunt it down the third base line. And if you beat the shift that way, beautiful. You'll learn baseball. The shift is always going to be a part of it. It's a defensive game. It's what makes a lot of fans hate it, but it's just like, seriously, if you can't be strategic, if you can't beat the strategy, well, then you shouldn't be making millions of dollars. And yes, there will be some failures because you're bound to ground one into the second baseman who's playing in shallow right field behind the first baseman or vice versa on the other side. But I mean, you got to beat it. There's no way around it.
It's the same thing as if you hit a ball super hard up the middle and the pitcher like kicks it off of his foot up in the air and catches it. Like then it's just that's just what happens. So.
My camera died again.
I think a crazy thing is most of these MLB players, they're not even in favor of banning the shift. Like you got people like Joey Gallo, who gets a shift put on him every fucking at bat.
Oh yeah,
and he doesn't even want it because it takes away from the game. Like.
Exactly.
You're basically ruining the game in a way to potentially produce an extra single or double a game. I mean, it's already hard enough to hit a baseball.
True.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I mean, I guess I know I've been bagging on it, but there could be some benefit to it as well because everybody likes to see a hit. They're not a common thing. So, I mean, this could produce more offense. In terms of, sneaking one through.
Yeah.
Which I guess could help. But the pitch clock thing is dumb to me. You get a 3-hour game, you're gonna make it 2 hours 45 minutes?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's not gonna do anything. There's no way to speed up this game unless you make every game 7 innings, which is dumb.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I think if anybody doesn't have anything to talk about, my camera apparently is exhausted. But I think
looking at your ugly face.
I know. I think that kind of wraps it up. Anybody got anything? Any last second comments?
Yeah.
All good.
Pimps don't cry.
Oh, pimps don't cry. Okay.
All right.
Oh, Dominion.
There you go. There's Mikey's old Dominion at the end of the podcast. But guys, thanks for tuning in. Guys, gents, ladies, whatever you guys want out there that are viewing this YouTube podcast right now. We got some shout outs on the page. We got Twitter, we got TikTok, and both can be at Homaha Pod. You can find us on Twitter and TikTok as well. Obviously, we got the YouTube channel, No Place Like Homaha. We post every week. We're trying to post on Wednesday every single week and getting it done. We're kind of getting on a good schedule here. We just reached out to a person, I did tonight, to try to get some highlights to be able to put in. So if they're not in here, hopefully they'll be in next week as we talk about some games and we talk about some key players. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So hopefully that you enjoyed and we can continue on this road to Omaha.